Hello, I'm Bill Wiadrowski from LifeWise Pet Nutrition, and today we're looking at part 2 of their question about how much food does my dog need and why does it vary so much. In part 1 we looked at the issues concerning the efficiency of use in the dog relative to the design of the diet and how appropriate that was to the physiological age of the dog. In part 2, we're going to look at the other aspect, and that is the use of the nutrients within the body. And what actually happens when we start feeding a dog on a high efficient diet, such as the LifeWise food, we immediately see this sort of action. So we'll normally be feeding along here with passage of time, and we get to this point here where we change onto a LifeWise food. And it's quite common to see an actual reduction in the immediate amount of food that the dog eats. And this is simply a function of the efficiency of use. Having functional nutrition and genetic nutrition balanced means that less food is required to do the same job. So you see that reflected in the amount of food that the dog eats. But over the ensuing 3 months, some other changes occur. And basically what happens in that next 3-month period is that we get a gradual decline in the amount of food. And this is in keeping with blood nutrient levels coming into balance within the body. It takes 3 months for blood nutrient levels to stabilise once you change the diet. So as that stabilisation occurs, so we use less food again. And then once we get past that 3-month period, the amount of food evens out. So our graph just goes along in a straight line. Now that, of course, that position of that line is in keeping with the other factors we looked at in part 1 of this series about whether it be summer or winter. One of the most common complaints, or not necessarily a complaint, but one of the common queries we get relates to around about this 3-month period. Many people, after a few months, contact us and they say, the dog doesn't like the food anymore. What's going on? But it's actually not a factor that the dog doesn't like the food. What it is, it's an indication that the blood nutrient levels are stabilising and the dog doesn't need the food. So he's becoming a lot more blasé about eating his meal. And there's many times that we find our dogs here. We give them some food and they just look at it and they walk away and they come back later. They simply aren't hungry. If the dog the condition is right, the coat's nice and shiny, healthy covering and he's happy and relaxed, then you know that the food is doing the job and don't worry about it. He'll come back and he'll eat something when he is hungry. So that's the story. That's what really governs what the intake is and how it affects the animal. The efficiency of food is all about using the least amount of food. That is the healthiest way to feed a dog. The concept of more being better simply doesn't work in nutrition. When you get the balance right, you don't use much food. The efficiency of the dog is enhanced. The stress on the body is reduced by virtue of minimising nutritional stress. And let's face it, with our domestic dogs these days, nutritional stress is often as not one of the biggest stressors in the dog's life. And if we can reduce stress, they are happier, healthier, live longer, and above all, enjoy a far higher quality of life. So there you go. Those are some of the factors that influence how much food your dog will eat and how LifeWise can help with the health and well-being of your animal. So if you had another question, please send it in and we'll get to that one as well. But in the meantime, well, see you next time.